Welcome back to Holy Fire Defense. If you see what's going on right now in this country and with Israel, it's going to make you cringe. And this is what happens when you let a bunch of socialists run wild and you leave our borders wide open where anybody that can come in that's a threat to this country. Everybody always got its eyes on Mexico. Mexico is not the only people coming into this country. A whole lot of terrorists have been filtering into this country, flooding it. Let's take a look at what's going on.
Take a look at your screen. This was the Free Palestine crowd in New York City. Take a look there. Celebrating. I think that's the one where the guy has a Nazi insignia. Celebrating this weekend's terror attack, smiling, chanting. Yep, holding up a picture of a swastika. Similar celebrations taking place.
Holding up swastikas? So these are the people that are coming into our country now? Haters of America and Israel? Praising Hamas? That's murdering people, murdering children, raping women, kidnapping people, 14 Americans dead. This is allowed? This is not rights, this is treason.
In London, in England, and in Sydney, in Australia, where Free Palestine demonstrators there were chanting, quote, "Gas the Jews." Don't believe me? Take a look.
Where's the Jews? Where's the Jews? Where's the Jews? Where's the Jews? Where's the Jews?
Gas the Jews, and Jewish people in Australia have been told to stay home. Wow. Back in Chicago, the group Black Lives Matter, they're standing in solidarity with Hamas, posting this image, apparently glorifying the terrorist paragliders, the ones that raped, murdered, abducted hundreds of young, unarmed civilians at that concert dedicated to peace. That's where 260 innocent people plus were killed. Meanwhile, student leaders on college campuses around this country are planning a day of resistance to support the terrorist group Hamas. Dozens of student groups at Harvard, 31 groups directly blaming Israel alone for what happened, all coming together in support of Hamas. Is this what they're learning at Harvard University? Bigotry, anti-Semitism, outright hate.
This liberalism has gone way too far. You're telling me you're going to Harvard, one of the most prestigious colleges in America, and you're allowed to scream out hating Jews rhetoric, siding with a terrorist group inside of an American college, elite college? That's what we're doing? But people are worried about trying to stop Americans from saying things? But you have people sitting here promoting terrorism in our country?
Really? In this politically correct world, this woke world, this cancel culture world, that's okay with Harvard and these alumni and all of these people that donate, billions of dollars? Really? It's truly vile. People now walk among us that have been indoctrinated by communist professors that clearly sympathize with terrorism and terrorists. Others have been infiltrating our wide open southern border, by the way, for years. Look at this. According to a leaked internal report from U.S. Customs and Border Protection, we have thousands of special interest aliens from Middle Eastern countries. They've all crossed our borders since 2021. Thanks, Joe. Do we know who they are? Do we know why they're here? Who financed their journey? Do we know how many got away undetected across our wide open borders? Is anyone in the Biden administration at all concerned about this? At the end of this, Joe Biden's...
See what I'm saying? I said in my last video how our country has been weakened and left wide open for our enemies. And we tolerate our enemies on our streets chanting, holding up signs, protesting. What is our government doing? Like I said, Trump 2024, we got to get him back in. This is ridiculous. This is outrageous what's going on in this country. Have people already forgot 9/11? Everybody was so pro-America and against terrorism, and now it's like they accept anything but their own country. Why are you here? Why do you live here? If you hate it so much, why do you live here?
Third year as president, he will have allowed, aided, and abetted over 8 million illegal immigrants into this country with zero vetting. I can guarantee you terror cells are in this country as part of that 8 million figure. And that means they are plotting and planning and scheming another 9/11 or worse. And you can thank Joe Biden and his open borders policy when that happens. Mark my words. Now, I pray that I'm wrong, but I doubt it. We'll wake up one day. Oh, it turns out they came in when Joe left the borders wide open, and 99% of those people were allowed to stay. What about the Americans who are now being held hostage, Joe? What is the White House doing to rescue them? Because you pretty much told Americans they can't get out of Israel because commercial airlines are not flying into it. Yeah, you're pretty much on your own. What are you going to do this time? Another Afghanistan? Great. Families are now begging.
That's one of the biggest problems I see too, among a whole bunch of others, but it's a big one. Not protecting the American people. If you take our people, like how when Trump was president, you should know you're going to have hell to pay. Make them think twice, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 times about trying to take Americans hostage. Man, I don't know, man. To be honest with you, this stuff, it's hard to look at. It's hard to believe this is the state our country's in. It's hard for me. I don't know. Maybe it's hard for you too. Like, I try to do these reactions. This ain't something I usually would do. But I just started seeing this stuff. It's like, okay, I'm going to do some reactions or whatever. But this stuff is gut-wrenching. If you really care, if you care about your freedom in your country, you care about raising your children and having a roof over their head and making sure that your country's not going to be invaded. I guess it's already been invaded by stealth right through the border. Like he said, we don't know how many terrorist cells came in through that border. Like I said, everybody's looking at just Mexico. The whole world was coming through that border. Because if you say Mexico can come through, then guess everybody else can come through too. The fallout of this is going to be bad. Biden, I think you have the worst administration on earth.
Biden to do more. We paid for almost 1,000 aircraft, jet aircraft, that this country owns. Maybe you can send Air Force One over to pick them up. As of this afternoon, one family had yet to receive any communication from the Biden White House, not even a phone call. And by the way, during Biden's short speech today, he didn't even mention Iran, the country, behind last weekend's attack, the #1 state sponsor of terror. There were no strong words, no condemnation of the mullahs in Iran, nothing indicating a plan to hold.
Biden ain't gonna condemn nothing or do nothing. He don't care about America. He don't care about its people. He don't care about threats. Shoot, that man's like 1,000 years old. What's he got to worry about? That's probably how it looks. But I'll tell you one thing you do have to worry about, Mr. Biden, standing before God and giving an account for all this debauchery and treacherous things that you've done and forsaking your people.
Hold Iran responsible as they should be held. Of course, no word if Biden will refreeze the $6 billion he recently made available to the mullahs when he paid a ransom for 5 American hostages. No, Joe Biden, your president, is too busy kissing the asses of the #1 state sponsor of terror worldwide. That's right, the Iranian mullahs. And get this, according to one of Biden's top officials, John Kirby, talking to our own Martha McCallum, despite everything that is now unfolding in the Middle East and Russia and China, he believes, climate change is an existential threat, the top national security concern, even more important, if you can believe it or not, than even nuclear war. I don't make this up. Take a look.
Given that the United States is now involved in wars that are taking place in Europe and also in the Middle East, I want to play this soundbite for you that is just last month in Vietnam and ask you if this still holds for the president. Watch.
The only existential threat humanity faces, even more frightening than a nuclear war, is global warming going above 1.5 degrees in the next.
I can't even watch this no more. Maybe you guys can go watch. I'm just sick of it. I'm so tired of all this garbage. It's kind of like people just don't see it. Like the Bible says, blind leading the blind. They don't see that they're endangering themselves and everybody in this country with this whole woke stuff. God spare us. Spare those that did not go with this demonic doctrines that have been passed around. Spare us, Lord. Spare our country.